Noor Barrage, you were the COO of a company, and then now you have left the corporate world. You call yourself the systems girl. How did you earn that nickname?
So this is a self-dubbed nickname, if I may. And essentially, when I started my journey on LinkedIn, so this was November of 2024, I was doing some research about systems and kind of people who operate in my space, people who I like, people who I disagree with. And I came across the systems guy, and I started looking into whether there was a systems woman or a systems girl, and I couldn't find one. And I thought, okay, like this is really cool. Like maybe this could be me. Maybe this is a space that I could fill.
Yeah.
So I just made the decision then and there to, I guess, add it to my LinkedIn headline, and that kind of took off. And now people connect with me because they're like, oh, like the systems girl, like, and we kind of start the conversation from there. So yeah, it was a self-proclaimed systems girl, but that's kind of how I settled on the nickname or the headline.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's really funny that you just saw this guy. And well, he's the systems guy. Is there a systems girl? Okay, well, there should be one. I'll be the systems girl. I think that's funny.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned November. I just want to point out you've got 18,000-ish followers right now on LinkedIn, and you started getting really serious about LinkedIn in November last year. Do I have that right?
Yeah. So when
And how many followers would we say you had at that time?
like a couple hundred, maybe. And it was, my professors from university and
Yeah.
some of my friends who were in the corporate world. When I decided that I was going to set up my own consulting business, I knew that I had to step out of the shadows, and I am most comfortable behind my screen, talking to clients and doing the work.
Mm-hmm.
I find it very uncomfortable being in the spotlight. I don't like attention, and I knew that I was going to have to find a way to put my face and my ideas out there in a way that felt authentic and like uncomfortable but comfortable to me. And LinkedIn was, I guess, the most natural of these social media or business media, however we want to call that, platforms. I find Instagram really cringy. I've also sat behind the scenes of a lot of the production with big creators, so I know how like constructed everything is, and I never wanted to do that just because it's not really me. It doesn't feel good. Similarly with YouTube, TikTok, like I'm a millennial, I'm not a Gen Zer, so TikTok feels really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I like writing. My bachelor's degree is in literature and philosophy, so I like writing. So LinkedIn just felt the most natural of those platforms. So I just made the commitment that I was gonna be on LinkedIn and try build and curate a audience there. And I guess was able to do that because I had the right structure, or I built the right structure around me to support that growth, but also I was very clear as to my message and who I wanted to speak to and what sort of shift I wanted to make in the industry by pushing back on certain ideas about business, about how to do business, about how to grow businesses, and what that needs to look like. So I think that's what allowed me to, I guess, get to the however many. I try not to look at the numbers because it gets really like scary. But I guess that's what led me to however many people are on there now.
Well, I think that time frame that you've amassed all those followers is a little ridiculous, because 18,000 in less than a year is maybe the fastest of anyone I've seen. And I know you said you had a couple hundred followers or connections already. So I'm curious then, what are your thoughts on, I've heard it said from others in the business world, like one channel, one avatar, like just going in on one place to find your customers with one product. Was that very intentional from that sense that you went all in on LinkedIn, or was it more from the sense of, well, I don't feel comfortable on TikTok, Instagram doesn't feel as authentic?
Yeah.
So So how did you go about deciding like LinkedIn or LinkedIn only? Are there any other places that you're also building your business?
Um, I think it was a culmination of both. So I didn't want to be on video for a few reasons. Number one, I was more comfortable writing, but number
Mm-hmm.
two, from a energy and a creation standpoint, video production would require more of me from an energy standpoint and like actually getting it out there and
Mm-hmm.
editing and like thumbnails, all of these things
Yeah.
versus writing. I could block out a few hours on my calendar to sit and write, and that was it, and then find an image and then attach it. So from an energy standpoint, that was something that I took into consideration. But I also,
Mm-hmm.
I guess this is linked to energy as well, think that if we're going to do, I could either do LinkedIn and do it well and do it consistently, or I could split the time that I had to give to social media into 2 or 3 different avenues. And to me,
Right.
that meant that I was not going to do LinkedIn as well, potentially not be as consistent on the platform because I was having to do LinkedIn and I was having to do Instagram and I was having to do X or Twitter, whatever we want to call it. Um, so yeah, for me, it just made more sense to pick one, build
Mm-hmm.
structure around myself so that it wasn't taking so much of my time, because the only reason I'm on the platform is for business. I'm not on it for fun. I mean, like, I enjoy it, but
Right.
I also enjoy reading a book. Um, so I'm there for business, and once I had business, I just wanted it to keep going and not require
Mm-hmm.
so much from me, so that I could actually spend time solving problems with CEOs, which is what I want to spend my time doing, rather than like, oh, I need to check LinkedIn and like reply to these comments and do all these things. So yeah, for me, that's, I guess, what made the most sense. And I have had and continue to have people who are constantly pushing me to start a YouTube channel and go on Instagram and be consistent on Instagram and do video on Instagram and all these things. But I think one of the things that I feel really strongly about, and I think is a really underrated skill to develop in business, is saying no and keeping focused. Yeah, if I had said yes to like, you know, I don't know how many people have told me to start a YouTube, I would be doing the YouTube. But it's not what's going to benefit me and my goals. And I think
Mm-hmm.
understanding that and then just putting your blinkers on and just, I think that's again what has allowed me to build an audience in what I guess people think is a short, a space of time.
Yeah. Well, from other creators that I see growing on LinkedIn, top 1% for sure. So congrats to you for the
Thank
growth
you.
there.
Thank you.
So November last year is when you went all into your business, started building your LinkedIn. How long did you have the idea of like, I think I want to work with CEOs and founders and help them to optimize their systems? Like, how long was that idea kicking around before you finally pulled the trigger on it?
Um, I would say the first time that it popped into my head was probably a year after I got started in business operations. So that was 2021, I want to say. Simply because I had been operating inside of a business that was so chaotic and had been experiencing exhaustion, burnout myself,
Mm-hmm.
and just thought, I can't be the only person who is experiencing this. And I kind of looked around. At the time, I was managing a team of maybe 15 or 16 people at the time. And I looked around and everyone else was exhausted and like really struggling to keep up. And I thought, we're definitely not the only small business that is going through this. And as I got more immersed into the industry and spoke to other operators and kind of looked into other businesses, that was reaffirmed. So I thought, there needs to, like, why is there no one, showing people, is there a better way, first of all?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought there must be. And then I thought, if there is, why isn't there someone who's showing people that this isn't what it has to be like? And so I became sort of obsessed with trying to build structure around myself and around the teams that I was managing to, I guess, create evidence for myself that this is what was possible. Yeah. And that became very difficult to do because the CEO of the business was not necessarily on board, and I didn't have the right support around me and the right mentors to reaffirm that, like, I really knew what I was doing and I had the right support to kind of push back on the CEO and, you know, have really difficult conversations. Eventually I did a few years down the line. And so I guess in November for me, it was a culmination of many reasons why I decided that now was the right time. I saw a shift in the industry, and I saw people getting a little bit more desperate to stay relevant because of how technology was changing and AI and all of these things. And I thought, this is just going to get worse. Like, we're going to see more people hustling. We're going to see more people who are determined to try and throw anything at a wall that will stick and then just kind of run with that. And I really believed that with the right structures and support, businesses could get themselves into a much better spot than just kind of like swimming and trying to stay afloat, which is where the majority of businesses are up until year 5, and then usually they go out of business or something changes and they continue to grow. So I guess that's 2021 was probably the first time for me, but yeah, a lot had to happen for me to finally go, okay, like, now is the time. And I think part of that was going through my own like personal growth and understanding that I had something really valuable to offer, and having the confidence to go out and do it, especially as someone who's more introverted and likes to just sit behind. I have like a home office with my dog. I don't tend to go out or like meet people in person because I'm very happy with like my little quiet life. So I had to find a way to be sure that I could make it work while not giving so much of myself, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think that probably would resonate with a lot of people. Like, if I had started this podcast 4 years ago, you said like, well, I kind of had the idea 4 years ago, but had to go through some personal growth. I think a lot of the times we have an idea, good ideas, but maybe we're not ready to be the ones executing it. And sometimes it takes a couple of years of growth and making some mistakes and learning under, someone else's, on someone else's time, what doesn't work, what does work. So I think that's great. I think I'm glad I didn't start trying to build this podcast and interview, great business leaders and all the CEOs that I've talked to, because I don't think that I was ready, 4 years ago. And sometimes even when we have a good idea, it does take the personal growth and the preparation before we should try and act on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you enjoy, and you're good at, I assume, it looks like you have some level of success here, but you enjoy and are good at implementing systems for founders and kind of younger stage businesses to help them operate more efficiently.
Yeah.
How have your personal systems changed over the past year as you've been helping these other companies?
That's such a good question. I think I've become more aggressive about my opinions and holding my boundaries and reinforcing my boundaries continuously. So for so long, I was really afraid to say no to requests that weren't necessarily like, crazy requests. Things like, oh, can you do a call at 5 p.m. on a Saturday? And as someone who bore the responsibility of, I would argue, the entire business on her shoulders, that wasn't like such a and I could justify that request. I'd be like, it's not the middle of the Saturday. I could like have my Saturday and then like at 5 p.m. jump on this call and then done by 6, maybe 6:30, and then continue with like dinner and like watch a movie or whatever.
Right.
But I still felt a lot of fear to say no to these things, because I thought that I would be taken less seriously, because the majority of like my work is, the people I speak to are CEOs and or C-suite level people. So there'll be people very, very high up in the company, founder, co-founder, maybe the CMO, CFO, you know, whatever. And those people tend to have really poor boundaries if they exist. Usually they don't. It's like, can you do a call at 8? Yeah, there, you know, send the invite.
Yeah.
8 p.m. for reference.
Yeah.
And I really struggled to, I guess, have an identity outside of business. So for me, it was like, I am a COO or an operator, whatever you want to call it. And the business is growing. We're hitting all of these, you know, big revenue targets. That's great. Like, that's how people saw me. And I thought that that was not incongruent with that I like to read fiction, and that I am really active, and I have a dog, and she requires, you know, walks and things like that. And I like musical theatre. It's one of the reasons I love New York so much. Like, I love Broadway, I love the West End, which is again a big reason why I live in London. But I thought, oh, I have to keep that side of me hidden, because people will not take me as seriously if they find out that I do things outside of business.
Yeah, like, oh no, you're a real person.
Right, which sounds so silly to say out loud, but the majority of the people that I was speaking to day to day, all they did was business from morning till night. And the things that they did that were not business were fitness, because that indirectly benefits the business.
Right.
And maybe dinner at a fancy restaurant with people where we speak about business. So I thought, oh, like, if I'm like, I've got a voice lesson, I have a singing lesson at 5, there's no way that I can share that, because people will be like, why are you how's that going to contribute to the business? So I kept part of myself hidden for a really, really long time, because I didn't feel like that would be seen in a positive light. And when I decided to step out on my own, it happened very quickly. So October, I forget the date, but it was Thursday evening, I handed in my resignation, and I had a call with the CEO and said that I was leaving, effective immediately, because I was never an employee. I was a partner, and I was a contractor legally, so I could leave whenever.
Yeah.
So Friday I handed everything over, and that was it. And that was done. And it was 4 and a bit years, chapter closed. And on Monday, I spent that weekend just sitting with my thoughts and thinking through things. And then Monday I was like, okay, we're starting. But part of that thinking through things was me coming to the decision that if I was going to do this, I was going to be myself and sit in that and not hide parts of myself. I really wanted to build my own business and show people that it was possible to do that and still have a partner and have a solid relationship with them, have friends, have hobbies outside of business. And it didn't mean that I loved my work less or that I was less serious about it. It meant that I was a 3D human, like all of us are. And I also believed that having these things made me a better business person. And that was really, really difficult. But I'm the type of person that once I commit to something, I go all in, and I'm like, we're just doing it. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And then maybe business isn't for me. But if I'm going to do this, I have to do this my way.
Yeah.
So that was, I would say, like the first thing that's changed in terms of like my, not necessarily personal systems, but like personal thing.
Like your perspective on branding, I guess.
Yeah. And also in terms of systems, I guess just being really clear on my boundaries, and having, the thing with boundaries is it's not enough to just go, here's my boundary. You have to continuously uphold that, because people will push. And if you let them push and you move your boundary once, then it becomes this like recurring pattern. So that's the thing that I would say has changed for me. So I signed a new fractional client. So I do fractional COO work now, last week. And he asked me about expectations with availability, contacting me, etc. And I said to him, look, like, I like doing work on weekends because it's usually time where it's quiet and I get to think and reflect. But that's not a given and it's not a consistent thing. And I'm not going to be on Slack replying to stuff.
Yeah.
But like, I will plan my day and kind of what that looks like. And also, I had like something big happening this weekend. So I was like, I'm not going to be available. So if you send me stuff, I'm not going to reply. And he was like, yeah, fantastic, cool, like no issue. Me 4 years ago would have been like, I can't say that because he's going to think I'm serious because I've just signed him. He's going to be like, why are you not available at my, beck and call? He was like, yeah, no worries, cool, see you Monday. I was like, yeah, fantastic, amazing. And then we spoke on Monday and it was fine. Yeah, so I think that's kind of, that for me has been like the big shift, is just being more confident in the way that I operate and not apologizing for it and just going like, this is better. And also maybe you should also take some time to, I don't know, go sit on the beach, chill out, be with loved ones, because life is so much more than just like replying to Slack messages.
It is better, right? Like, I'm sure there's somebody out there in the business world who would have heard you say that and they would have said, well, that's not going to work. Right. I need you to be available on the weekends. Yeah. And I think we can all imagine that person in our mind right now. We've worked with them. Yeah. But is that really who you want to build businesses with? Like, especially if you're on your own, I think those boundaries are so important. Yeah. Because I am establishing, this is my life. This is when I will be available for work. And this is when I may choose to work on something, but I'm not making myself available. And I think to have that distinction, now you're setting the boundary and you're also saying, this is the kind of person I am when I work. And it almost kind of sets an expectation of I'm expecting for the same in return. I'm not going to reach out to you on the weekends either, or at least I'll try not to, Yeah. So I'm sure that you try and instill setting those boundaries with the CEOs and founders that you work with as well. How receptive are they? Because you're working with the hustle culture, right? You're working with these people who are early growth stage, which requires work, hard work, Yeah. And often longer hours, often much more focused level of work. For anyone in the growth stages where there's no revenue yet, you have to get that first dollar or get to the next dollar. The growth stage is so critical. So how receptive are they to something like setting work boundaries and thinking about work-life balance?
Yeah. I think CEOs, I'm going to try be careful with how I phrase this so it's not misunderstood. I think CEOs are not used to having people set boundaries, and they're not used to having people push back and go, no, that's not how we get there. Mm-hmm. And I think I'm able to do this because of a few things. One of them being that when I am asked to come in, like when I'm having conversations with CEO, it's usually because something is not working. So it's usually because typically what I see is we've been stuck at this revenue level. I've been trying X, Y, Z, A, B, C to try move us forwards. That's not working. What am I not seeing? Then I come in and I go, give me access to this, let me see this, let me talk to this person, blah, blah, blah. And I go, okay, here's what you're not seeing, here's the issue, here's how we fix it. And they're like, fantastic, how do we do that? Like what's next steps look like? Right. And I'm like, my response to that is always, okay, here's what next steps would look like. I can do this, 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 but here's what's going to be required from your side. Can you do that? Can you commit to that? And I've been doing this for, 5 years now. So, and I've worked with the company that I was at previously. They helped online business owners grow. So by proxy, I've worked with hundreds of CEOs because I was brought in to support them with leadership or with their operators.
Yeah.
So I have a pretty good track record, and I can usually sniff out the ones who I'm going to have issues with from the ones who are really serious about making a change. So the ones that are very serious about making a change are usually the ones that are really serious about growth and don't have a massive ego attached to how the growth comes about. So I think the issue that I face when I have these conversations is sometimes the CEO goes, yeah, like whatever you need. And I'm like, no, what I'm telling you is I'm going to come in, I'm going to put structure in place that you cannot touch. So when you go to, and they're like, yeah, like I'm on board. Like, okay, so this is what I mean in practice. When you go to an event or you're sat at dinner with big name and they tell you that you need to be doing this, you need to have this funnel, or you need to get your sales reps doing sales in this way, and you go, okay team, drop a Slack message while at dinner, and you go, okay team, tomorrow we're going to start selling like this. And the team's like, whoa, it's 8 p.m. Like, what's going on? Like, tomorrow I have to show up to work and now we have to do this. Like, we had all of these things planned and I had these calls and like, how am I going to do this? Blah, blah, blah. Chaos. So I set that out and I'm like, what that means is when you get that idea, you're going to pop it into this little contained space that no one has access to except me. And then you're going to sleep on it. And then the next day, if you still think it's a good idea, you're going to map out exactly what that looks like, how much time it's going to require from each person. You're going to essentially like give me the whole spiel.
Yeah.
And then you're going to sleep on it. And then if you still think it's a good idea, we're going to chat about it. And then I just kind of like cut it there. And they're like, oh, okay. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, can you commit to that? And the ones that, you know, and I can see their head ticking when I do these like chats with them. So I'm pretty good at filtering the ones who are really serious about things to the ones that aren't. And sometimes it's many conversations that happen. So I'll do an initial call with and the client that I've just signed was an example like this. So he and I are friends, and like we've developed a friendship over the last couple of months because we've been speaking so regularly. And he, you know, we'll have a chat and I'll be like, okay, great. Like, and he was like, we need to do it this way. I'm like, yeah, fantastic. So you do it, you do you. And then a few months later, he'll be like, okay, Noor, so like, it didn't work. And like, I think we're gonna try it this way. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, you know, my recommendation was blah, blah, blah. But if you want to try it this way, like, all good. And they're like, okay, cool. And then, you know, a few months later, another call, and it's like, okay, so like, how can you fix this? So, you know, CEOs sometimes need to go through the pains to get to the place where I need them to be before we start the work together. Sometimes it happens a lot faster. I think what makes my life a lot easier is that now I have a somewhat sizable audience, and I also have a lot of proof from work that I have done over the years to show that I really do know what I'm doing, and I've managed to build my own business this way. It's just me. I have an assistant, but I'm able to do a lot. And that's a question I get a lot. It's like, how can you, you know, post on LinkedIn and do this and work with these clients and blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, because I have structure and I'm not, you know, I'm very careful with where I put my energy and my focus. So that makes my life a lot easier. But ultimately, and I'm, you know, very lucky that I'm in this position, I'm in a position where I don't take on just any work because I hate getting paid, and I could very easily get paid on retainer and, you know, not have any progress because the CEO is like not, you know, in the right space to, you know, allow me to do the work that I do. But I purposefully don't take on that work because I think it reflects poorly on me. But also it's just really frustrating. Like, I was in that for 4 years and I don't want to, I like seeing things move. To go back to your question, I don't encounter very much resistance because I'm pretty good at screening CEOs like initially before I even get on the call to go, actually, this isn't the right, it doesn't make sense for us to have a conversation. Like, you're very clear on, you think you need to do this, go do that. And then if you still want to have a chat in a few months, like, you know where to find me.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, yeah, fantastic. And I think people really respect that as well, because I'm not trying to sell an offer. I don't have an offer to sell. I like solving problems. And if I feel like I can add value and help someone solve their problem for their company, then we'll chat. And if not, then I'll be like, maybe in a few months, we can explore that. But right now, I don't think that's the best thing for you. And they're like, yeah, amazing. Like, love it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the best ways to build trust, right? Like when I think of, I've got a friend who, he was actually the first guest that I had on the show, and he owns a mobile tire change, mobile oil change business, but he's also just worked in the automotive world. He's been a mechanic before. He's been all these different things at the engineering level as well. And thinking about him and his story, like some of the best ways to build trust with clients is to not perform work for them, to tell them, hey, you don't need to pay me.
Right.
A mechanic who says, oh, no, that's not broken. Like
Yeah.
it's supposed to make that noise. And so I'm not going to charge you anything,
Yeah.
that's what builds trust, is by saying, oh, no, you don't have to pay me because you don't actually need this. And I
Yeah.
think that's a great way to establish yourself as an authority on the subject.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's so rare, especially
Yeah.
for in that industry as well.
Yeah.
Like, that's so rare. Like, most people will just be like, yeah, that's not meant to, that noise is big red flag. You need a new tire, or you need new, whatever it is. And then they'll just like, whack on a massive bill.
Right.
But that's not how you create long time trust
Hmm.
with people. And I think the more I'm in it, the more I'm understanding how small the business world, online and offline, actually is. And your reputation really is something that is so precious. And
Yeah.
it takes one unhappy person to like create quite a lot of damage.
Yeah.
So yeah, you've got to be really, really careful. And it's something that I think is really underestimated in the online space specifically.
Yeah. I mean, especially when everything lives forever, you got to be careful about, I mean, you should be a good person, but then also you should be presenting yourself in the best way you can online, especially.
Yeah, 100%.
So thinking about some of these CEOs, would you say it's more of a like a software deficiency where they don't have the systems in place, or would you say it's more of a behavioral deficiency where they don't have the right systems in place?
It's a little bit of both. So there's definitely like an element of structure and process, and there is a massive element of behavioral changes as well. So essentially, I used to market myself like this, and then I stopped because I don't think it was like clicking in the way that I wanted it to click. But I used to say like, I help CEOs build boring businesses. And that, I think, came like, to me, that made total sense. But I think some CEOs get a lot of dopamine from the chaos. So they were like, I don't want a boring business.
Yeah.
The businesses that grow, that scale, are the ones that are more structured and there is less chaos. So there is an element of, CEOs tend to be very like dopamine driven, visionary, creative. They get lots of ideas. They love like watching, content to get like little light bulbs going off in their head with like new ideas and stuff. And that's great. And we need that in business, but there needs to be a way to capture those ideas, like put them through process and go, this is a really good idea. Let's action it in this way, versus the 99 other ideas that are like not going to get us to the goal. So there's definitely an element of behavior change that needs to kind of be taken into account. And one of my mentors a few years ago talked about the psychological side of like the visionary persona, which is, most visionaries have I'm not going to get into the psychology of it because I'm not a psychologist and I'm not going to
Yeah.
pretend to be, but he argued something along the lines of CEOs want to feel needed, and they get a lot of like validation from their businesses because they're needed for everything. So when someone like myself comes in and goes, we actually don't need you here. Like, you go and you do your content and you go talk to people and you go grow the business, but we don't need you in the day-to-day running because we have structures now and everyone knows what they're meant to be doing. We've got the North Star, everyone's cracking on, things are good, the business is growing. That feels really scary.
And that hurts them.
Yeah, because it's like, I've built this, it's, you know, it's like their baby. They're like, I've built
Right.
this thing.
It's a part of me.
It's a part of me, and now I'm told that I'm no longer needed. And that hits really, really hard. So part of the work that I do is getting CEOs comfortable with that and excited about the next step. So like having them be elevated in this leadership role where now you get to go and speak to people on podcasts, and you get to go and go to events and do speaking engagements and create content to like get your mission out there and get more eyes on the business. And that should be exciting.
Yeah.
So there's definitely, you know, that strand of it. And then the kind of more process structures. A lot of people think this is really complicated. So when I talk about systems are kind of like a buzzword in the business space. At least they have become a buzzword, I would say, over the last year specifically. And most people don't really know what that looks like in practice. So when I come in and I'm like, do you have a project management system? And they're like, yeah, we have ClickUp. And I'm like, great, can I see the ClickUp? And they just have the tool, but they don't actually have the structure to like use it properly. And that's kind of the work that I do. So I'm like, great, you've got the tech stack, but shall we actually set this up so these things talk to each other? So,
Yeah.
you know, if you've got a funnel and you've got like people signing up to like a lead magnet or a freebie, whatever you want to call it, then those names are being sent via automation to your CRM. And they're like, yeah, like that's amazing, let's do that. I'm like, okay. And then I'm like, in terms of, you know, one of my big things is like a planning system. So this is a question I ask all CEOs. I'm like, what are we working towards? Like, we're about to enter Q4 as we're recording this. So I'm like, what is the goal for Q4? And they're like, yeah, I want to like hit 1 million, you know, by end of Q4 total revenue. And I'm like, cool. Like, how are we going to get there? And they're like, yeah, we're going to take sales calls. I'm like, okay. So like, how many are we taking? Like, what's the close rate? Like, if we want to get to, let's say we want to bring in 100 grand in October, let's reverse engineer that so we get to day-to-day activities so the team knows what they need to do. So they're like, okay, like, what does that look like? And I'm like, okay, so if we need 10 sales calls, if we need 10 units sold, then what's the close rate? And they're like 25%. I'm like, okay, so we need 40 calls on the calendar that show up. What's the no-show rate? They're like, we don't know. I'm like, okay, so let's do 50, and then we'll adjust based on like, we'll calculate the no-show rate. They're like, okay, cool. And I'm like, okay, so in order to get the 50 calls, like how many people need to be dialed? Like, do we have videos that are pushing people directly to book? Like, you know, and then they're like, whoa. They're like, wow, okay. And I'm like, yeah, that's why the team is so confused, because they don't have clear direction. And I think people don't understand that when you set a goal, if you don't reverse engineer it to the day-to-day activities, it's just like a nice thing that, you know, got there, but you don't know if you're going to achieve it or not.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the work that I do. When I say systems, that's what I mean. It's like, if we are trying to grow this organization, what does that metric look like? Is it revenue? Is it follower size? What is it? I'm like, okay, cool. So we've got that target. Let's reverse engineer that into each quarter, then each month, then each week, then each day for every single role at the company, including the CEO and myself, part of it. And most people it's such a simple thing, but most people are mind blown when I come in and I start doing that. And what's really interesting is I just did a call with one of my fractional clients where everything that I've just shared, I laid that out for them and I showed them. I'm like, okay, so here are our 4 goals. this is it reverse engineered, this is the daily stuff, like, is everyone cool? And they were like, wow. They were like, we needed this like months ago, like we're so excited, like anything, like whatever you need us to do, we're on board. And I'm like, yeah, fantastic. And they're usually so on board, and it's just the CEO that needs, I need the CEO on board, otherwise I could do everything right with the team, and then the CEO will be like, we need this video out yesterday, and the team's like, and then it gets thrown into chaos. So they're kind of two things have to work in tandem for this to work.
So it sounds like a lot of what you're doing is establishing, you talked about reverse engineering these metrics of like, oh, you want to hit $1 million revenue by the end of Q4. What does that turn into on a daily basis for each one of the sales reps or whatever position we're looking at? So that helps you create and craft SOPs, standard operating procedures.
Yeah.
How early should a business be implementing SOPs? Is it first day, like, hey, before you even start? You're talking to founders and CEOs. How early do you think it makes sense to implement SOPs for a business? Yeah,
that's such a good question. My advice would be to do it day one. So what I do now, and like I'm a solo business person, I have an assistant. Well, I'm not solo because I have an assistant. So it's like a 2-person team.
Yeah.
When I do stuff, I will record myself doing it, and then I will send that to my assistant, and I'm like, hey, like, here's me doing this. I need you to take this over, and we store that. And then sometimes it changes. Usually early stages, there's a lot of things changing.
Right.
But the best advice is just to document as you go, because you never know. And when I was doing my content creation at the beginning, it looked very different to what I do now.
I noticed that. Yeah, I went way far back on your LinkedIn. Like, you started about a year ago. What did it look like a year ago?
Yeah, it looked very different, but my process also looked very different. And now I don't do what I was doing, previously. And my assistant has a lot of, like, she manages a lot of the structure for me. And then I go in and I'm like, right, so next Monday I need to post a broader post that is more value driven than story driven. I'm going to get cracking. And then I'll get cracking. And then she will like put in, if there's like a link or anything, then she can support that. But I was able to remove myself from a lot of this because I documented it early on. And I think the issue is that things can move really fast. So if you don't start documenting day one, in 3 months, you're like, oh, now I have to bring on an assistant, but I haven't documented anything. So now I have to go back and document stuff. Versus when I brought on my assistant, day one, she got started. I was like, here's what I need you to do. Here's how to do it. Go do it. She was like, fantastic, got it. So it just saves you a lot of time, and it doesn't have to be, I think SOPs can be really daunting because I think people think, and the way that the industry talks about them is this like massive document where it's like step 1, open this page, step 2, do this, step 3, do this. And that's brilliant if we can get there. But some of my SOPs are just a video. It's like, here's how I change this link on this page. And I say that, I'm like, hey, I'm just going to show you how to change this link on this page. Okay, I'm going to click this, and I just talk through it, and then that's it. And that's fine. Like, it doesn't have to be step 1, like, so I would say start doing it as soon as you can. Loom is a great software that I use for everything. I probably record like 5 a day at minimum. And it's great. And there's also an extension called Tango, like dancing, tango. I think it's tango.com, and it's an extension that you install. And if I were to go and do something, I would click the extension and it would record everything that I'm doing and turn it into an SOP. So all I would do is like, I'm going to open the link, click here, do this, and Tango will put that into a process document where it will go, open this URL, click this, and it will also take screenshots of, it'll be like,
wow, that's incredible.
So yeah, it's fantastic. It's really, really good. And it makes the process a lot easier of creating these processes. So those are the 2 kind of things that I use. But yeah, my recommendation would be start as early as you can, because when you need to bring someone on, an assistant, I think about this a lot. I'm like, my assistant is phenomenal and I couldn't do without her. But if she ever decided to leave, if she decided to retire, then I would be in a really tricky spot if I didn't have her workflows documented, and I wouldn't be able to plug someone in right away, which means the business would stall. So from a risk standpoint, you do yourself a massive favor kind of covering your back by creating process behind all of these things.
Yeah. So you mentioned some of the tools there that you're using to create SOPs, to document processes, and to set up your employees or employee, but future employees potentially for success from day one, which I've worked in businesses where, like, my last job, the first 2, even 3 weeks were so slow to get started. I would ask, like, hey, what can I be doing right now? Like, oh, we'll just, try and get up to speed on this. Like, we're not really doing anything yet.
Right.
And I think especially when the way an employee starts is the way that an employee is going to continue to work. And so when you have this like slow ramp up where they're not being given that direction from day one, they are going to continue to work slowly because that's like the standard that you set. That's like, well, this is how we do it here because this is how I was taught to work or not work.
Yeah, I mean, it's so important. And one of the things that I see a lot of businesses struggling with is, I don't know if, can I call it? Yeah, I guess that, like, time to value when you bring on new talent. So if someone is spending I'm going to use this really bad example because they're like a massive, like probably like one of the massive corporates, but I have a friend who just started at Google and it's been 6 weeks since she has gotten started. And, Google has all the money in the world. They can afford to be slower. But she's been in her role for 6 weeks. And so far, her time to value has been 6 weeks plus, like pending.
Yeah. Still waiting to see.
She's like, I still don't know what I'm doing day to day. She's like, I'm going through all this arbitrary, like, big picture stuff, but I have no idea what I'm doing day to day. And I'm like, it's really interesting that, obviously, like, my work is very different. If I went into the corporate world, I'd probably be, like, so shocked. But when you are dealing with small businesses, time to value is so important. So ideally, you want someone coming in and day one, you are feeling some relief. So you're going, okay, like, this person's come on board already, things are feeling different and they're taking on this, they're doing this, I didn't have to do this, they did this. And if you have processes, it makes it so much easier. And it also means that you're not spending your time on a screen share going, this is how you do this. Because that's fun for anyone.
Yeah, that reminds me. So I went to like a networking lunch. There's a very strong LinkedIn community here in Utah.
That's so cool.
It's really cool. So I went to a LinkedIn lunch a couple weeks ago, and I told somebody about my podcast. It's what we were talking about. And they're like, oh, you doing it all by yourself? I'm like, yeah, well, I actually did bring on an intern about a month ago. Yeah. And they're like, oh, so you're working even more now. And like the way they phrased it, I'm like, they are an intern. It's a pretty low level position. It's not like a senior person who already knows exactly how to do everything. But like, no, not really. I'm not working way more. I've had to like create some documents, create some SOPs and spend some time on calls like, well, this is how we do things. But like, no, I'm not. I don't know. It was a weird question. Like, oh, you brought somebody on, so now you're working way more. Like, well, that's not really how that's supposed to work. And so it caught me off guard a little bit. Like, how are you hiring people for your business? They were probably an employee. I don't remember. But.
Yeah. I'm not surprised by that comment because that's how it works. It's not how it should work by any means.
Yeah.
But again, the majority of people in, solo businesses, solo founders, etc., are more visionary than they are operator. So something like recording yourself or building an SOP or anything like that doesn't seem like something that is important in that moment. It's only when you move to expand and you bringing on someone to support you and doing, whatever, that you're like, oh, if I had done this when I uploaded the recording, or when I, created snippets of it, whatever, if I had like shown how to do that, then I wouldn't have had to actually sit down and be like, I have to build this process now because I've done it before. So I just recommend building as you go and seeing it as something that's going to save you a lot of time. And the thing is, it doesn't require anything. It's just like record it and talk through what you're doing in the recording, and then store it on something as simple as like a Google Sheet, be like how to upload to whatever, Anchor, Riverside, whatever it is. And that's it. And then, it's there, and that person can go in and be like, oh, okay, like this is how you do it. Like, cool.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I mean, like, I'm not going to claim to be perfect by any means, in the way that I have brought on an intern, and, I think she's great. And she's definitely gotten better, the more she's done. But speaking more to the systems, you've said on LinkedIn that AI is not replacing you, but the AI is supporting you. What did you mean by that at a more like hands-on level?
Yeah. So, I think AI is really interesting, and it seems to be something that everyone is talking about right now.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of misinformation around AI and like what it can do, and there's a lot of, I don't want to say fear mongering because that sounds like a really aggressive term, but there's a lot of fear that people have regarding AI and AI's place in the workspace.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to speak for corporates because that's not my experience. And when your headcount is thousands, the majority of corporates are also massively underutilizing their people and are operating extremely inefficiently.
Mm-hmm.
So AI will remove that, and corporates will feel it and are feeling it. Like, we're seeing cut, like this company cut X many people and all of these things. In the small business world, for people like myself who run a 1-2 person business, AI means that I can be a lot more efficient and I can move a lot faster and get things done a lot quicker than if I had 5 people on my team that I had to then mobilize and, have all these pieces moving together. In bigger businesses than me and my assistant, businesses of, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 people, I think the people that are able to leverage AI to take care of the boring bits or the things that AI can take over,
Right.
and upskill so that they're operating at a more senior strategic level, are the ones that are going to, I don't think there's anything, job security doesn't exist in this day and age, but
Right.
will be the ones that are seen as more valuable
Mm-hmm.
to, whoever's making these decisions about team size, all of these things. For me, what that looks like is, just to give more of a concrete example, I created a resource for my audience that would have taken me, given my current load of client work and LinkedIn and conversation, all of this stuff, it probably would have taken maybe a week and a half for me to finish end to
Right.
end.
Between everything else you're working on.
Exactly. With my assistant supporting, it probably would have taken me about a week and a half. Because I was able to use AI, it took me 2 hours. And the reason that AI was able to support me is there was a part of my freebie that meant that I had to code. Now, I took computer science 201 when I was a sophomore in university. But that was a really long time ago. That was 2014. That was 2014.
Yeah.
For me to go, but I never would have done it, because there's no point in me learning that skill right now when I could have
Right. Of course.
someone on Fiverr to come in and do that. But looking for someone on Fiverr, paying someone on Fiverr, briefing someone on Fiverr, going, hey, I want this done. This is how I need, this is the vision. Like, can you get this done? What's the turnaround time? Blah, blah, blah. Probably would have required edits on my side. Great. Can you fix this? Can you fix this? That would have taken, my estimate is about a week and a half, and it would have cost the business whatever the Fiverr fee was. Instead, I opened up ChatGPT and said, hey, like, I'm building this, you know, I'm pretty good, I would like to think, at, you know, prompting and guiding the AI tool. I need support with this. This is going to require coding. Don't know how to do that. Like, what do I do? And it wrote the code and was like, open Excel, copy and paste this into Excel and run it. And I ran it, and then I spotted an error. And instead of troubleshooting it, I went back to ChatGPT and said, hey, I have spotted this error. Can you fix it? And they were like, yep, this was the issue. Our bad. Run it again. Ran it, and it was fine. And then I got my assistant to go through the funnel and test it, and she was like, it's absolutely fine. So that took me about 2 hours to get that set up, from building the funnel to having my assistant go in and like do her design. I don't do design at all, like that's her. Went in, made it look nice, to the actual resource, to like writing the copy. It was 2 hours. So for me, that's incredibly valuable because I can move a lot faster. I don't need to bring in or like outsource. I mean, there will always be things that you want to outsource to like a person who has the right skills. In that situation, it was a free thing that I wanted to put out there to like give people value. So it made sense to not outsource. And I just wanted it done. And instead of being like, we're going to put this into our project management system, and then like we have to talk to these people and do this and this, it's so much faster. So that is something that I think is incredibly valuable. And that AI didn't come up with the idea for me. It wasn't like, we see this gap in the market because you've had 10 conversations with CEOs this week. They've all said this. So let's build something to give those people, to demonstrate value. That was me. And I don't think that AI could have done that, because AI would have had to have had those conversations, been in the industry, identified that gap. And that's something that is still very human centric. I don't think my prospective clients would want to speak to AI. I still think they want to speak, maybe, you know, in 5 years this changes, but for now they still want to speak to me. But then it was just me who took that idea and went, here's the strategic vision. Cool. Like, this is what needs to happen. AI can come in, take over this little piece so that we can move faster and get this out tomorrow. So I think it's incredibly valuable when used correctly. I think a lot of people are trying to use it for everything, and I have a lot of concerns about that. And I think we've all fallen in, I mean, I'm going to speak for myself. I have definitely fallen into using ChatGPT for things that normally I would think through, and then catching myself and going, I don't want to lose that brain capacity and that critical piece, that, you know, critical thinking piece.
Right.
So I'm going to think through this and then use ChatGPT to kind of argue with me and, you know, point out where there are gaps in my logic, or if there's something I'm not thinking through, and then go back and think through it. But I think a lot of people are using these AI tools to just give them the answers. And the issue there is it becomes very generic and not thought through at all. And I think that potentially will lead to you being replaced because you're using AI to try. Does that make sense? Like, if an employee is like, well, you've just used AI, so like why would we keep you? Like, you're just using AI for everything. Like, you're not even thinking like we're paying you. Like, we're not paying ChatGPT. So there's a lot of, it's very tricky territory.
Yeah, having just finished my MBA and seeing the work of some of the other students, and you know, I'll say myself too. I'm not going to say all of my work was fantastic, but seeing some of the work from other students especially was like, this is very obviously ChatGPT output with no edits. and you're not even paying for the pro plan. I can tell. Like, this is
Right.
not that great.
Right. Congrats, by the way. What a huge accomplishment.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. Uh, Had 2 kids during the program,
That's
moved once, and then
insane.
had a full-time job, the whole time.
Wow.
So I've been very busy, and you probably can't tell on, on this call, but if I've got a couple more wrinkles and, bags under my eyes, like, it's from 2 years of not sleeping.
Oh no.
But yeah, I think especially with AI, like, you will always get an output, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be any good, because the thing that you're searching for, you mentioned, like, oh, I think I'm pretty good at prompting, but I think most people aren't, or aren't trying to be, because really, for you to get a great output from AI, like, you need to give it the parameters of what makes a good response,
Yeah.
instead of just getting a response. And this isn't meant to just be about AI at this point, but I think a lot of people are just giving just like a 1 or 2 sentence prompt, and they get an output and they accept that and move on. But
Yeah.
really, like, you didn't set the parameters of what makes a good, great, or terrible response, and then you're just running with the output that you got, whether or not it's good. And I
Yeah.
think people who are actually familiar with AI, like really good at using it, can spot that pretty easily. It, I don't know. I think it's going to make you pretty irreplaceable if the only thing you're doing is copying and pasting out of ChatGPT.
Yeah. And I think that's, unfortunately, we're seeing that in a lot of places. And I think the danger there is people think that they're being smart, I guess, in how they're cutting corners.
Hmm.
Um, but it's not hard to do. So that's not a high value. You're not a high value individual, person,
Hmm.
or industry, if that is how you are doing things. And I think we spoke earlier about LinkedIn. I think the issue with LinkedIn is that we're seeing a lot of people on the platform who are using AI to write, and it's becoming more and more obvious that that is what is
Yeah.
happening. And the platform is also changing so quickly. So it so far has been favoring a lot of the generic content, but it's moving
Hmm.
away from that. And I think that the danger with that is anyone can ask ChatGPT, give me 10 systems to implement in a business and why I should implement those, and speak to CEOs. If I were to post that, people would know it. They'd be like, there's something funny here, because this doesn't sound like you. Um, but there are so many people that are doing that. And I think that those are the people that, unfortunately, the industry will not continue to support via a
Hmm.
follower increase and business and all of these things, because um, the robots can do that for us.
Yeah.
So we need to be careful, I think.
Yeah. I think this is a great place to kind of wrap up. I want to hear your thoughts just real quickly on what makes somebody irreplaceable then, as we're moving forward with AI, whether it's on LinkedIn or in the business world. What are you thinking? What's on your mind? Like, if you want to stay relevant and not be replaced by AI, what's going to make that person be irreplaceable?
Um, I was given some really good advice back in November when I started on LinkedIn, and it was, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Like, I don't know of them, but there have been people before me that have come on. Like, Matt Gray is someone who's really big in the business space. He has a product called Founder Operating System, Founder OS. He talks about systems. Leila Hormozi talks about systems. Like, there are people who talk about systems.
Hmm.
I'm going to take Leila as an example because she's a woman, and she's an operator. She's a visionary as well, but she's, an operator.
Yeah.
Her and I are very different. We talk about a lot of the same stuff, but there are some people who will take more to me because I am a lot quieter. I tend not to curse very much, or at least in professional settings, I try not to curse very much. I present differently. I'm English. I'm more soft spoken, but can be very, very firm, but it comes
Hmm.
across, I think, nicer because I'm English. Layla is a lot more ballsy. She's loud. She is very sharp. edgy. We're very, very, very different. Layla also, works with business owners who are, at much higher revenue levels. I work with business owners that are anywhere between 50 to the 300 grand per month mark. So we're very, very different. But the reason that people gravitate towards me is not because I'm saying things that are drastically different than what Layla's saying. It's because I'm me. And the advice that someone gave me back in November was, everyone can talk about systems, but you are the only person that can be you, and people can try be you. Like, I'm sure there are people out there who are trying to mimic Layla and be like, okay, I need to be like her, I need to talk like her, I need to present like her because she's successful, whatever that is. But no one is going to be as good at being you as you, even when people try. So the best way to differentiate yourself is not by, I don't think I could, if I wanted to, say something that's completely different to what anyone before me has ever said about systems and business. It's been done, but if I can be myself, if I can share my own experiences and my own thoughts about those experiences and how they relate to business and my clients, like, no one has my experiences. So that's really the only thing that can set me apart. And AI can't replicate that, and AI can't mimic that. I mean, like, it could, but it's not going to do it as well as me. So I think the best advice is to figure out where you want to sit in your industry, in your space, in your niche, and then figure out how you want to cultivate your audience and your space in, on the internet or off the internet, however you're kind of marketing, because you're the only person that will be able to do that as well as you. And I think that's the only thing that can make you different, because unless you're building some SaaS that has like never been done, do you know what I mean? Like, it's not really going to happen. And I think that trying is kind of setting ourselves up for failure, because if I tried to reinvent the wheel, I'd be saying really weird stuff that really doesn't make sense. But I love,
just for the sake of attention.
Yeah, it'd just be like, like, you need to sleep 3 hours a day because that's how you do systems. People are like, what? Like, there's no data to support that. I'm like, yeah, like, I've got the data. Like, it just doesn't make sense. But yeah, I think just try be yourself. No one else is gonna, do that as well as you. And just, I guess, approach things with integrity, because I think the issue with my space in specific, the online business world, is it's not regulated. So you can say and do, I could roll up tomorrow on LinkedIn and be like, systems, do these 3 things and you'll make 150 grand tomorrow. And people would be like, wait, what? Like, she's got a decent following, so like, this must be true. I'm not doing myself any favors doing that, but there's no regulation. So be careful with what you put out there, because like you said, Matt, at the beginning, like really, really like good point. Like, once it's there, it's there, even if you take it off, someone screenshotted it, someone's photo to their friend. So once you've put it out there, it's there. And one thing can really damage a reputation that you've worked, years to curate. So yeah, that's kind of what I would say.
Yeah, I love that, because I come from the finance world.
Yeah.
And I think, in terms of data and numbers, and the difference, like, over a long period of time, we could imagine two stocks, and one grows at 8%, one grows at 9%. Like, the difference over 40 years of that 1% of additional growth is massive. It's incredible. We could think of 2 portfolios, like starting, they could both start with 10 grand, and one grows at 8%, the other at 9%. Like, it's a multi-million dollar difference over a longer period of time. Like, you don't have to be massively different from somebody. And like you said, you and Layla are quite different. But from the outside looking in, it could be, oh, well, they're both women in business talking about systems, operational efficiency, and leadership and managing teams. Same thing, right? And AI would probably think, oh, they do the same thing.
Right.
But you're different people, and your perspective is different. The way, like you said, the way you present is different. And I think that it takes a lot of self-awareness to be able to recognize like, oh, we do the same thing, but not really the same.
Yeah.
And I think that's what sets us apart, being people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the one thing that I feel confident AI will not replace. I still think that people want to talk to people and want to form connections. And I don't foresee a point in the near future where we would take talking to a robot over talking to a person and sitting in front of a person, camera to camera, face to face, and having a conversation. I don't foresee a time in the near future where AI will be able to replace that, at least.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. That's one of the reasons why I started this podcast, is I was thinking like all the information of an MBA is online already. It's everywhere. You can get any of the information you want. But these conversations and people's stories are unique to them. And I don't think that AI is going to replace that. And I hope I'm right, not just for the sake of the podcast, but for the sake of my experience as a human. Yeah. I hope I'm not wrong on that.
I don't think you are. But yeah, I guess time will tell, but I feel pretty confident that, we're good.
Yeah, we'll see. But either way, I very much appreciated this conversation here. And if people want to find you, I think I probably know what the answer is here, but where can people reach out to you if they want to talk more about systems or just reach out in general?
Yeah, LinkedIn is probably the place. It's still, I'm on there daily. It is me. I have an assistant. She's brilliant. But I spend an hour on the platform every day, and I reply to comments and I try to reply to DMs. It's getting a little bit more difficult, but we're still doing the best that we can. So yeah, LinkedIn is the best place to find me.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I was a little surprised that you even responded, because I send out plenty of messages to potential guests and not everybody even responds, and that's okay, you know.
Yeah, I try. Like, it's still important to me to spend time in there. My assistant does, so I do comments half an hour and half an hour before, half an hour after posting. Then she takes over because it's just too much for me to deal with. She doesn't touch my DMs, so that still is me, and I don't foresee me giving that over anytime soon. It just takes me a while sometimes to get back to everyone, but I try.
Yeah, I think people, myself included, would be surprised at who you can have genuine connections with through LinkedIn. So
yeah,
glad to find you there.
Yeah, likewise. It's been so fun. So thank you for having me on.
Yeah, and thank you.